Carl Munson here with the Resident Podcast, and it's my great pleasure to be talking to Tova Leigh today. And Tova, I've got a problem. If I list all your incredible achievements, that's going to take up the whole podcast. So if I may, I would love to welcome you and focus on your love of Portugal and the things that are coming up, like the Femal Festival that's happening, that you're a driving force with, your gig happening in Lisbon on the 21st of October, and maybe your books, which is better to put on the screen than read out loud.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. You are a polymath, a Renaissance woman, extraordinary, all the things you've done. So it's brilliant to talk to you today. Can we start with how you got to be here in Portugal?
Well, first of all, I'm really delighted to be on the show. If I knew you would, be so positive, I'd come on your show every morning. My God, I need to start my day with all of these compliments. My gosh. How did I get to Portugal? So a few years ago, we actually came for a summer holiday in Portugal, just, as you do, and actually fell in love. We traveled all over. We were up north, went to Porto, did loads places up north, and obviously Lisbon, Cascais, and it was a place that really we loved. And then went back to London. Fast forward a few years, COVID happened. And it was coming out of COVID, I think for a lot of people, realizing, gosh, we really want to maybe make a change. And I was living in London for about 18 years by that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I love London, and it's where my kids were born. My husband's from London, so it's always going to be also home. But we just really wanted a change. And then we thought, well, where would we go? Wanted to not go too far. And suddenly it was so obvious. Portugal, of course.
A sweet spot. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. And I think you fell in love with the country, and there's something about the culture as well that seems especially supportive for the work that you're doing, which I can't be part of. The women's retreats, and I'm not bitter at all about that.
Yes, you sound a little bit bitter. A little bit.
It's so fantastic to see. How did that happen? Was it like just a natural progression? The culture, the place, and this is the ideal place to host this sort of work, the retreats for women.
So I always wanted to do retreats because obviously the main bulk of my work is online. And while I built a community of women online, and that's amazing, and I got to see them as well when I toured with my shows, and that was amazing as well, it always felt like it was never enough because online, even if someone writes you the most amazing message that's really personal and they take the time to do that, and you interact with them, they're still like this little icon on a screen, and it feels so detached. And so I always had it in my mind, it would be amazing to do retreats and then get people out to actually be able to spend a few days together. But I don't like flying. I'm much better now, by the way. So I never thought I'm not going to go to somewhere and do a retreat, and I'm not going to do it in England because, no offense, the weather is not exactly ideal. Who's going to want to come? Yeah. So when I got here, I just went, oh my God, I'm in Portugal. I can do it now. And the first year, I think I did 3 retreats in 12 months because I got so excited about being able to do retreats. Now I do them once a year, and I do them in the Algarve, and I've got one coming up actually now in May.
So who's coming along to those? I mean, I think you represent a certain, I don't like the word demographic or niche, but you know what I'm trying to get to, the sort of women you represent and who you're a focal point for, and presumably what gets unpacked and discussed on the retreats. Who is that? What is that?
No, I want to hear you say, who is the profile? Who is the profile?
Yeah,
Tell me.
No pressure here. 50 pages range. Right.
So you're...
if I may deflect and distract with this next to me, and I'll explain here, there's a rip in my green screen. Okay. I have a family life like you do. Yeah. I'm not a middle-aged woman, but I have lived with one or two, and I have some sense of what that's like, but I have a big sense of what the reality and authenticity of family life is like when a cat rips your green screen. And that's why I've left it there. one of our cats. I've got 3 children in this house, 3 cats, 2 dogs, and 2 budgies. And this is the sort of stuff that goes on, which is highly unprofessional. I've got a rip in my green screen, but I think that's what you specialize in and embrace, is the authenticity of being a middle-aged woman, if I may say so, and all that goes with that, and to celebrate, embrace, and just be right in that space and love it and enjoy it. How did I do?
You did really well. You were very careful. You did so well.
Really, right? Stepping around.
You did okay. No, but I mean, you know, I always listen out for the compliments, because I the other stuff I don't really care about. I don't care. so all I heard was, you're so authentic.
And women love you. And women love you.
And you're awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah.
No, but I think so the retreats obviously are for women. We call them female empowerment because I'm really bad at titles, I reckon, because, you know, my blog was called My Thoughts About Stuff, because I couldn't think of anything better. So,
I did think that.
Exactly. Yeah, at least I'm honest, you know. So exactly.
I write
So
stuff,
I was like, what is this retreat? What's this retreat? I'll just call it female empowerment, and then I can do whatever I want. So we do a lot of stuff from, so there's obviously workshops and lots of stuff, but we do everything from all the topics that I love talking about. So we talk about permission and boundaries and pleasure and body image. And a lot of it is like up on your feet. It's not like TED Talks. We're not sitting there and listening to lectures. So it's a lot of fun as well, dancing and movement. And yes, there are middle-aged women who are hormonal and full of rage and, you know, and all of that. But actually what I love about the retreats is that it does have there's a real diversity in ages. So I've had retreats where the youngest person has been in their 20s, and then there's been somebody in her 70s. And it is so amazing to actually sit in that circle and actually have that intergeneration kind of like wisdom and knowledge and women coming together in that way. That, you know what, the first time I did the retreat, I built a program. They're getting this goodie bag, they've got a massage, there's a boat trip, there's amazing food, and it was like all about those stuff. I never, ever, ever, ever realized that the thing that they would enjoy the most was literally the company.
That makes complete sense to me. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah.
And the multi-generational thing. I mean, how wonderful that younger women can see a path that is, you know, a lot of young people now are just looking at the path ahead, I think, in many ways, and thinking that sucks. And like, what else is there? Where are the role models? And there you are on the retreat being the role models. And then the elder women are being the role models to the middle ones, aren't they? It's what an incredible, I don't know what ecosystem or situation to create.
Yeah. And do you know what also was surprising to me? So I could see how the younger women could, maybe learn from the older women who were like sharing their life stories and their life experiences. But what was amazing was actually to hear the younger generation.
That's odd.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right, don't worry. We will pick up where we left off because Tova had a call come in, which completely discombobulated the recording. But she's back again. Look, stop being so popular, okay? We need to.
No, I'm so sorry. But before we started, I did tell you everything's super random. It's like...
Yeah, I get it. But that's enough of an example now.
Okay, sorry. I'll try and be professional. Hang on.
Me too.
Okay.
Good luck to us both here. You were talking about the dynamics of the intergenerational dynamics of the retreats, which sound lovely. How can people get involved? They go to your website, right?
Everything is advertised on the website. It's tovaleigh.com, and like I said, there's a retreat that's happening it's kicking off on the 14th of May, so it's quite soon. But I do them once a year, so usually in May in the Algarve.
Brilliant. Oh, it sounds wonderful. Not that I'll ever get the chance to go there, but I'm getting over it. And also, what looks like a sort of progression is the Festival. Is this the same thing, or is this a different sort of festival vibe?
No, so this is different,
Oh,
and
okay.
actually, it is a progression. Because after we did a few retreats, the thought was, well, this is amazing, and it has made a big difference for a lot of women in their lives. Wouldn't it be great if we could reach even more women and also make it more affordable? Because obviously, a retreat is much smaller, so then the price is higher. And then I thought, well, if I could do something, a bit shorter and open it up to more people, then we can charge much less money, and then it could just be more accessible. So that's kind of like we started with that idea, and then also thought about how we can expand the different things we talk about. So my retreat has, it's quite beginners in the sense that there's also touches on stuff like tantra, but we don't call it tantra. Yoga, we don't call it yoga. If you call it something else, everything sounds less intimidating. But my point
Yeah.
is that I actually wanted to take it that step further, and actually say, hey, there's a scale, and there's something for everyone, and you can do that in a festival. You can't really do that in a retreat setting because the group sort of does everything together, but in a festival you get to pick and choose. So we've put together this amazing schedule that basically has a few things happening at the same times, and you can choose what you want. So you'll go to whatever suits your level, your comfort, etc. And the festival was planned to take place at the end of May, but unfortunately we've had to move it now. So I don't know if you're aware of that.
I didn't.
We had some issues with the date, with the venue, with different things, and it's probably now going to happen in November, which actually I think is a better time for it. I think I was also quite ambitious to schedule a retreat and a festival with
Yes.
1 week apart.
Yeah.
But so it works better. I think it's going to be a much better timing in the year.
Excellent. So again, just refer to your website.
Yeah, website.
Tovaleigh.com, Leigh.com, and then you can find out about the retreats and the Festival that's coming up. Also, a live gig in October as well. What goes on there? Is that a place for, is that men are allowed to this one?
Yes, men are allowed to this one.
It's almost like a parental advisory, maybe. There.
I do think they're very educational for the men. That's
really
sure. No, I actually love it when men come to the shows, and they do. It's mainly women, but some brave men do come along with their wives or their partners, and it's always nice to have them there. I don't pick on anyone, don't worry. So if you do come, you're safe.
I was kind of hoping you would, like, you were sort of stand up, like, hey, you, what's your name?
Yeah, what's your name?
What do you do? Like, I'm a man, sorry.
That's it. That's basically it. Right. No, I don't do that, to be honest. I did it at one of my shows, and actually it was fun, but it's not really what I do. I also don't consider myself as a stand-up comedian, so I wouldn't be. I'm not brave enough to do stuff like that. No. I tell stories, so it's like it's storytelling, but they're funny. So then it's not like gag, but it's like, it's funny. And it's again about all the themes. It does have like a feminist kind of undertone, but it's very banter. It's like very funny. So I already performed in Lisbon once, which was amazing. 2 years ago with my previous show. So this is a brand new show that I'm writing at the moment. And I loved performing in Lisbon. It was very exciting, actually, because London has always been like my hometown in terms of for performances, because that's where I started performing. And performing in London is always amazing. And I did in Leicester Square for the tour, the one before, yeah. And it was a brilliant night. But what was so interesting about the Lisbon show is that usually people who come to see my show are people within my online community, right? So they're from the online community. They know me. They've been following me. They know my humor. They know what to expect. They come to see me. But the Lisbon show was basically parents from my kids' schools.
Oh, how was that?
It it was something, it was because they know me as the PTA mom, and there I am on stage being completely unhinged. I think
What,
it quite
elbowing each other, like, what is she like? This is a whole new
yeah, this is a whole new side. But I don't care. Like, I live for shocking people, so it was
I was
fine.
getting that impression. Now, I want to ask you about that contrast, a bit more about London and Lisbon. And
Yeah.
your work is feminist, shocking as you say, and there's something going on at the moment, isn't there, where this is a really important conversation to be having, if I can sort of refer to that in the sort of broadest sense. What's it like talking about the topics you talk about in Portugal? Because I'm guessing there must be a difference compared to the cynical sort of London thing. I say that because I'm from London, and there is a kind of a slight cynicism and knowingness, which will be a little bit different to what I love about Portugal, and as an extension in Lisbon, a little bit more of a traditional and innocent culture, which we benefit from and we love. But how is your material landing in that environment?
So first of all, that's a challenge that I've always had, because the online community that I have is really international.
Mm-hmm.
So although I lived in London for 18 years, I sound like I sound. So I'm not British, obviously. And when I started off, people thought I was American, even though I was born in Israel and my mom's Irish. So instinctively, Americans followed me, and I had this big platform that actually had majority of American followers, because they assumed I was American.
Yeah.
And it actually took a long time to almost educate, or I don't know what word to use, and get the English crowd on board, because they didn't even realize I was based in London. And still, towards the end, they would put clips of my stuff on, whether it was Loose Women or whatever, and go, American blogger. And I'm like, I literally live up the road in Golders Green. Like, why am I? Yeah, they couldn't get their heads around. So, and then performing in front, I did a tour in America, and then around Europe and in the UK. And I always wondered, how will the humor translate? Because does it translate across, across cultures? I have found that when it comes to women, the things that women find funny, talk about, and struggle, and the challenges are actually universal.
Right,
so even though the cultures are different, right, the stuff women talk about is kind of like the same. So even I went to Texas, and I was like, how's that going to be? I went to I went to a lot of places where I was like, how is this gonna, or places that I've never been to, and I know nothing about the culture, and I thought, how is this gonna land? But it was okay. So yeah, with Portugal, didn't feel any issue. But also, don't forget that a lot of people who came to the show are in fact from the expat community, so very international community. But of course, also Portuguese people.
And are there any specifically characteristically Portuguese things that have happened or have inspired your work?
So the last tour, there was a whole section of the tour that was about the move to Portugal. Right. And about moving here and not knowing the language, and still not knowing the language after 3 years. How many years have you been here, did you say?
I didn't say.
Oh, you didn't.
and often for this reason, because I'll be here for nearly 9 years, and I've got Cafe Portuguese, but not great proficiency.
See, no, but it's people like you who I love more than anyone, because you give me permission to sort of do you know what I mean? Because it's so difficult. It really is. So I've got Cafe Portuguese. That's about it. After 3 years, shocking.
Well, no, you have to be kind to yourself. I think it's definitely a balance of we all should try harder, no question, us foreigners, but also it is a challenge to learn, and so it's a matter of striking balance for sure. I want to conclude, if I may. I've got a couple of things to suggest to you. I'd love you to come back, but it'd be great to check in with you from time to time and see how your Portuguese is coming along, and seeing how life is shaping up in Portugal. So that it could take many years. Messages. We talked about young women earlier on. I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. But before we go there, young men, you had some interesting things to say about the manosphere. and Louis Theroux's documentary. What did you make of that? And what would be your message, given that you've got this great relationship with the women's community and the work you're doing here? What's your message to young men, or men generally, I suppose, with this whole manosphere debate in the air at the moment?
Is it still a debate in the UK? I'm happy to hear that it's not just died down.
I don't know about the UK. I mean, I watched the documentary with my grown-up daughter in Italy.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
it's all over, and I was quite. I've got very sort of mixed feelings about it, and I think it's a really important conversation to be having. That's the best thing for me, is that we're talking about this. That it's in the open air and people are talking about it, which is important, and that, that's part of the whole thing with young men, isn't it? Is to get them to talk and address things. But this is not about me, it's about you.
I think that all these pieces of content that have come out in the last few years, whether it's this show or what was it, the other one in recently, gosh, I can't even think now.
I can't keep up.
Are good because they do open people's eyes who potentially just are not in the know and weren't aware, and especially for parents of young boys. I did a talk. I did a video a few years ago about social media and what is on social media, and I talked a lot about red pill culture and black pill culture, and they didn't call it the manosphere back then, but basically, the Andrew Tates and all the toxic masculinity that is spread online and how it's targeting young boys and blah, 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 blah. And I did it at schools here, actually. And then I did a video and people were just shocked. Parents just have no idea what their boys are watching and the brainwashing, the level of brainwashing that they're under. And when I came out from one of the specific talks, there was a dad sitting on a bench and he was literally crying. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And he said, "No, because I now understand what happened to my son." Right. And that's the level. So it's so real. And I guess what I would say, I would say to everybody, it's like, the cliche, but it's the truth. When people think about women's rights, it really needs to be everybody's battle, not just women. Yeah. And I really do think that there's so many amazing men out there. Obviously, I'm married to one. I've got an amazing brother. Like, I know a lot of really good men, but I think if the good men go out of their way to do more, that would be great as well, because it's not, and this is, I think, is the last thing that people are saying now, is like, this is not really about the whole not all men. Everybody knows it's not all men, but actually it's actually not just enough to not harm. It's what do you actually actively do to try and change what's been existing for a very, very long time, and everybody's impacted by it. So that's the message I'm kind of like repeating in different ways. But that's my main message, I guess, when it comes to what would I say. And to parents, I would just say, be aware and speak to your boys, from an early age. Yeah.
And to women, apart from come see the show and come to the Festival and think about the retreats, a message to you're going to hate me for this, maybe a message for the ladies, which
No, I'm good. I'm okay with ladies. It's fine. I'm okay. Yeah.
It's so habitual for me, coming from London, calling people love, all that sort of stuff, all that.
do you say love? Oh,
I do. Or querida now, of course.
Querida,
yeah. Message for the ladies then, Tova, to finish with. And I do hope you'll come back and we can talk again.
Oh, well, gosh, I have too many messages. I'll focus on one. I'll say it.
Yeah.
You get better. Gets better. You get better.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us today. All the best with the retreat, the festival, the gig, and everything else that you're doing, the books, and stay in touch with Tova's work at tovaleigh.com right there, as you can see on the screen. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank
ciao.
you, Carl. Bye.